Throughout the 75-ish years of NBA history, there have been a little over 4,700 players who have come and gone. Some of them have had the reputation of being very kind, some of them have had the reputation of being very crazy, and then there's the ones who have had the reputation of being feared. Well, when it comes to the particular category of being feared, some players who fit this category are Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. Then in today's NBA, it'd be Steph Curry. Above them all, however, above all the feared players the NBA has ever known, stands one man, and that man's name is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. What is it, though, that makes some of the strongest athletes in the world fear him? I mean, sure, he's a lot bigger than the average man, but in the NBA, when it comes to size, he's average. So that begs the question again. What exactly was it about MJ that caused NBA players to tremble? Well, today we're going to dive deep into this topic and look at it from all angles to find out once and for all why everyone was afraid of Michael Jordan. There are many different types of leadership styles in the league today, but there are two polarizing ones that are shared between the GOATs of the game. These different methodologies really affects the perception of players. And I think Rich Paul, one of the best player agents in today's game, hit it on the spot when he said,
Mike and Kobe, they didn't care if you were their friend or not. Matter of fact, they don't care to be your friend. They don't want to speak to you, period. But what does that do? That makes you want to be their friend even more. LJ was all-inclusive, right? All-inclusive. But familiarity breeds disrespect.
Now, there's nothing wrong about LeBron's leadership style. Heck, it got him to what? 4 championships and the leading scorer in NBA history? But that no-friend nonsense type of leadership that MJ had was just one of the factors that made NBA players shiver when he was around. And forget about just opposing team players. Even in practice, his teammates were afraid.
People were afraid of him. We were his teammates and we were afraid of him. And there was just fear.
Now, this isn't the end be-all when it comes to MJ being feared. In fact, this is just the first layer. Let's now dive a bit deeper. Have y'all ever seen this commercial?
Yeah, I'll have a vodka martini.
How many olives would you like?
81.
Ouch, guys. Ouch. You know, this one is common sense. Every NBA player has pride in their craft, and the last thing they'd want is someone to drop 40, 50, 60, or even 81 points on their head. So it makes sense that they'd be a bit fearful against a player who was capable of that. And Gilbert Arenas actually hit it on the spot when he said this on his podcast.
The fear comes from what that person's capability is, right? As an offensive player, the capability of what Jordan's gonna do if you're not on point. That's where the fear came in at. So Michael Jordan was feared. Allen Iverson was feared. Kobe was feared. Yeah. Guys who have the ability to score 30 to damn 70 points, they're feared, right? It's not like I'm not afraid of a guy who's going to give me 29, 9, and 9. I'm afraid of a man who's going to go for 60 if I'm not careful. Okay. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to players who could drop 30 to 70 points a night, Michael is at the top of that list. I mean, if we just took the points per game average, Michael Jordan is number 1, even above the likes of Wilt Chamberlain. So, this was just another layer on why players were afraid of MJ. Players definitely didn't want to get on his bad side. Otherwise, Mike was going to turn the heat up on them. And Shaq actually pretty much reiterated this point on a recent podcast as well.
Was there anybody that you kind of avoided talking smack to because if you did, your spirit got bigger and they wanted to beat you, or?
Michael Jordan. You don't want to mess with God. You got to stay away from Mike. Leave that man alone.
Leave that man alone. And this leads me to my next point.
Welcome to the space
You know, as a kid, I loved Space Jam. It was one of my favorite movies at the time, but this was how it depicted Michael.
How was your game?
I don't want to talk about it. Hi, Dad.
Hey.
So, although I loved this movie and have probably watched it 100 times growing up, I think it's fair to say that it didn't quite show Michael's true personality because, well, he was a kind and compassionate man in this movie. But in real life, at least from what we see on the court and here in the tabloids, he was anything but that. And this is another reason why Michael was feared, because it didn't matter if you left him alone or not, he was mean and he'd go after you anyway. I mean, do y'all know who Rodney McRae is? If not, these are the cliff notes of him. 6'7", third overall pick back in 1983, two-time all-defensive player, and back when he was in college, NCAA champion. Anyway, the story is, in 1992, Rodney, a 9-year NBA vet at the time, joined the Chicago Bulls. He was a great addition to the team as he could score and defend, and coming off the bench, he'd be able to provide quality minutes. He was excited at the time. I mean, the Bulls were coming off a championship, and now he was a teammate of the best basketball player in the entire world, and this was his best chance to win a championship. Well, little did he know that his quest to win a ring was going to be a nightmare. You see, according to teammates of the Bulls at the time, when the two players are on opposing teams in scrimmages, Jordan is in Rodney's face, screaming, "You're a loser. You've always been a loser. Rodney can hardly put up a jumper now." The stats back that up too. Before that year when he was in Dallas, Rodney attempted 85 three-point shots, but after Jordan got to him, after Jordan had his way with him, during that season with the Bulls, he only attempted 5 three-point shots throughout the entire year. Michael was not kind to him at all. And it wasn't just Rodney either. I mean, Steve Kerr got punched in the face, and Kwame Brown was tormented. It was clear Michael was far from the nice man who was depicted in Space Jam, and players knew that. And as he further continued his dominance in the NBA, his reputation got bigger, and then it started to precede him. I mean, people around the league were thinking, if he'd punch his teammates in the face in practice, what would he do to us, his opponents? Well, this leads directly to the next point. If there was something else about Mike which gave him that aura of being feared, it was his confidence. I mean, no other player's belief in himself even comes close. Like, for example, which player do you know in today's NBA would walk into an opposing team's locker room during the playoffs, light a fucking cigar, and ask, "Who's gonna check me tonight?" Well, per Chris Webber, that happened when he was a member of the Bullets back in 1997, and guess what? The Bulls won that game, with MJ scoring a game-high 28 points, and the Wizards were eliminated. Sheesh! It wasn't just that incident either. NBA Hall of Famer Dominic Wilkins also had this to say of MJ. "So we're in Chicago. Michael walks into our locker room, suit and tie. I'm like, what is this son of a gun coming into our locker room for? I'm thinking he's going to the training room or something. He walks by me, he walks by Kevin Willis, he gets to Randy Whitman, and he taps him on the leg, and he said, 'Lace him up, it's going to be a long night.'" Well, Jordan ended up scoring 61 points that night. Are y'all seeing why everyone was fearful of Mike? Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan literally had everything needed to become feared. His demeanor, his ability to drop buckets and completely embarrass you, his bullying personality, and then on top of this, he had the utmost confidence about it all. Then, as he rinsed and repeated year after year, his reputation got to the point where people like Reggie Miller were calling him Black Jesus. And it wasn't just players that his aura reached either. Even referees were under his dominion.
Michael, he didn't touch it with both hands. That's the thing. You think so, Michael? 55 hits, 2 to come. Michael, I didn't see 2 hands on him, Michael. But I believe you.
But I believe you.